They threw Coca-Cola on a black woman at work. Her billionaire husband came in and fired everyone. The brown liquid dripped down Nina Thompson's curls, soaking her navy blue blouse as Jessica Whitmore's cruel laughter echoed through the Apex marketing office in Manhattan. "Oops, I thought you needed to refresh those mediocre ideas," the blonde manager sneered, dropping the empty can on Nina's desk. "Look, everyone, the company's diversity initiative taking a Coca-Cola shower," shouted Brad Mitchell, the account coordinator, as he filmed everything with his iPhone 15. At his side, Samantha Chun, the HR assistant, laughed while frantically typing on her phone. "When you hire based on quotas and not competence." Reality check. Nina stood motionless, soda dripping from her curly hair onto the reports she had meticulously prepared for the investor meeting. At 29, she was the only black analyst in a sea of privileged faces who had treated her like an outsider since her first day 6 months ago. Jessica approached her. "You know what your problem is, Nina." Her Chanel perfume mingled with the sweet smell of Coca-Cola. "You don't know your place. You think you can sit at the same table as us just because you have some little public college degree." The glass-walled conference room had become a fishbowl of cruelty. Other employees watched from the common area, some embarrassed, most indifferent. It was the Friday before Labor Day, and the office was emptier than usual, the perfect time for calculated humiliation. Nina took a deep breath, her brown eyes shining with something Jessica mistook for tears. It was actually determination. She calmly picked up her phone, ignoring the taunts. "Going to call your mommy or your Uber boyfriend?" Brad sneered, moving the camera closer. "I bet he lives in the Bronx and took the subway in today." Samantha let out a shrill laugh. "Guys, you're terrible, but it's true, right?" "Nina, it must be hard to keep up that executive facade on an assistant salary." What those three didn't know was that Nina Thompson wasn't just another employee trying to climb the ladder. She had secrets. Even her HR file didn't reveal the full story. Connections that transcended the toxic environment they thrived in. "Go ahead," she said softly, typing a single message into her phone. "You just made the best decision of your lives." Jessica frowned, thrown off by Nina's strange calm. "What are you talking about? Did the sugar go to your head?" Exactly 15 minutes later, Nina consulted her discreet Patek Philippe watch, a detail no one had noticed. "You'll understand everything." Brad lowered his phone, doubt flickering across his face. 15 minutes? Are you serious? Samantha, always the most perceptive, noticed the shift. There was no fear, no anger, just a chilling calmness. The kind someone has when they know exactly what's coming. Then it happened. The private elevator, the one used only by the board of directors, lit up on the 42nd floor. The doors opened with a soft ding. 3 uniformed security guards stepped out, followed by a tall man in a Tom Ford suit that probably cost more than anyone's yearly salary. "Nina." Alexander Sterling's deep voice sliced through the silence. "Are you okay?" If looks could kill, Jessica, Brad, and Samantha would already be 6 feet under. They had no idea they'd just crossed the line of no return, and the woman they chose to humiliate was about to rewrite the rules of the corporate game. Alexander stormed into the office, shifting from concern to quiet rage when he saw Nina's state. Drops of Coca-Cola were still sliding down her hair, staining her blouse's white collar. "Security," he said coldly. "Escort these 3 people out of the building. Now." Jessica stepped forward, still stunned. "Excuse me, but who the hell do you think you are? This is our office, and Nina is our employee." "Wrong," Alexander said, standing protectively beside Nina. "This is my office. Sterling Enterprises is the majority shareholder of Apex Marketing." Brad's iPhone fell from his hand onto the marble floor. Samantha turned pale and frantically searched LinkedIn. Sterling Enterprises Chairman and CEO Alexander Sterling. Net worth, $7.8 billion. "That's the problem with judging people by appearance," Nina said, wiping her face with a tissue. "You never bothered to find out who I really am." Her story began 4 years ago when she met Alexander at an MIT Tech conference. She was a scholarship student. He was a guest speaker. What started as a conversation about machine learning evolved into a love that defied every social expectation. "But why are you working here?" Jessica stammered. "Because I believe in earning my place, not inheriting it. I wanted to prove myself without using the Sterling name." For 6 months, Naina had documented everything: derogatory emails, audio recordings of stolen ideas, surveillance footage. All of it stored safely in the cloud, waiting. "You thought I was weak because I'm quiet," she said, eyes blazing. "You confuse dignity with submission. Big mistake." A man in a gray suit stepped from the elevator. Marcus Chun, lead attorney for Sterling Enterprises, and Naina's best man. "I have here documentation of moral harassment, racial discrimination, and hostile work environment," he said, handing out folders to the trio. "This is ridiculous," Brad shouted. "It was just jokes. She never complained." "Like throwing soda on her and calling it a diversity shower? Like mocking her background?" Alexander asked, picking up Brad's phone, still recording. Samantha started crying. "I have bills. A family." Naina raised an eyebrow. "I have a family too. My mother's a nurse. My father's a bus driver. They gave everything so I could have a future. And you thought that made me less?" What none of them knew was that Naina had quietly implemented a data system projected to increase company efficiency by 47%, a multi-million-dollar project registered under her name alone. "You have 30 minutes to clear your desks," Alexander said. "Any retaliation will trigger legal consequences." Jessica turned to the staff. "You're just going to let this happen?" "Everyone knows what she's like." The room was silent. Tom from IT stepped forward. "Actually, Jessica, many of us admire Nina's work. You're the one who made this place toxic." Security closed in. Naina packed her laptop. As she passed Jessica, she whispered, "You know what's ironic? I was going to quit today, but you just gave me a much better gift." Her watch read 3:47 p.m. In 13 minutes, the company would receive a memo announcing radical changes to its diversity and inclusion policy. She touched Alexander's arm. "I want to use this for something bigger, not just revenge." He understood. "The scholarship fund?" "Exactly. For 4 young black people in tech, funded by the shares those 3 just forfeited." What they mistook for weakness was actually strategy. The kind of strength that waits, gathers evidence, and strikes not for vengeance, but for change. But this was just the beginning. Minutes later, the company's digital panic room erupted. Marcus projected a file titled Evidence of Hostile Environment. Thompson vs. Apex onto the auditorium's screen. Employees gathered for an emergency meeting to hear structural changes. Jessica lunged for Marcus's laptop. "You can't do that. It's an invasion of privacy." "Invasion of privacy," Alexander said, "like these emails?" The screen displayed one from Jessica. "The new diversity hire arrived today. I bet she won't last a month." The next slide showed screenshots from a WhatsApp group called Elite Apex, with Brad's posts mocking Naina. "Found the missing maid. Someone call her Uber." "How did you get this?" Samantha gasped as her secret Instagram post appeared. Naina, eating alone, captioned, "When the quota has no friends. Reality." Naina stood calmly, 6 months of resilience behind her and a revolution ahead. "Would you like help drafting a follow-up story or character backstory?" At 10:04, she began walking to the center of the auditorium. By 10:07, she spoke. For 6 months, she had created a complete digital archive of her own discrimination. Every screenshot, audio clip, and video. HR had it all. Then the next slide changed everything. The audience fell silent as it revealed Project Prometheus, a new predictive marketing analysis system developed by Nina Thompson Sterling. Estimated value, $47 million. Status, patented. While her colleagues Wasted time humiliating her, she explained. She had been developing an algorithm that would revolutionize marketing data analysis. Sterling Enterprises had already bought exclusive rights. Jessica staggered back, stunned. That meant all profits for the next 20 years would go to the Nina Thompson Fund for Black Youth Technology Scholarships, Alexander added. Funded initially by the forced sale of shares owned by Jessica, Brad, and Samantha. Brad tried to counter. "This is extortion. We're going to sue you." Marcus Chin, calm and composed, adjusted his glasses. "Extortion is blackmail," he said. "We're simply presenting documented evidence of hate crimes, moral harassment, and systemic racial discrimination. Crimes punishable by up to 5 years in prison under New York law." Another slide appeared. The company's org chart. 3 names flashed red: Jessica Whitmore, Brad Mitchell, Samantha Chun. Marked for immediate termination. Just cause. Jessica shouted, furious and in tears, "You can't fire us for just cause." "You can try to fight this," Nina replied calmly. "But you should probably watch the video Brad recorded today, when he threw Coca-Cola at me while yelling about diversity showers." The video played. Brad's voice filled the auditorium. "I bet you live in the Bronx and took the subway here today." Heads in the crowd lowered in shame. Then Alexander announced a sweeping new compliance program. Any company that wanted to maintain contracts with Sterling Enterprises would have to pass strict diversity and inclusion audits. Samantha began to sob. "My career, my reputation, it's all destroyed." Nina looked at her. "You spent 6 months destroying mine. Now you're facing the consequences of your own actions." The final slide appeared. The Nina Thompson Fund, $50 million initial commitment. Goal, 1,000 full-tech scholarships for young black women over 5 years. 50 million? Brad gasped. "Where from?" "From the discrimination fines you'll pay," Nina answered. "From reversed bonuses. And from my personal donation. And any company they tried to join would get a full dossier on the case. Good luck explaining being fired for documented racism in your interviews." Jessica fell to her knees. "Please, I have bills, a mortgage." "Funny," Nina replied coldly. "I had bills too when you sabotaged my projects and stole my ideas. I turned my pain into something constructive. You turned your privilege into cruelty." Security began escorting them out. On screen, one last message. True diversity isn't about quotas. It's about recognizing that talent has no color, class, or zip code. The auditorium erupted in applause. Nina Thompson Sterling stood at the center, the Coca-Cola long dried on her shirt, but her dignity intact. What no one there realized was that this moment marked more than just personal victory. It was the birth of a movement that would change the tech industry forever. 6 months later, the Metropolitan Opera House was packed for the premiere of Code Nanina, How Corporate Racism Created a Revolution. Nina took the stage to thunderous applause, clad in a black Armani suit, not to impress, but because she could wear what she wanted now. "When they threw Coca-Cola at me," she began, "they didn't know they were watering the seed of a change." That change had already granted 347 full scholarships to young black students. The camera panned over the audience, Fortune 500 CEOs, civil rights leaders, and those very scholarship recipients now studying at elite institutions like MIT, Stanford, and Harvard. The documentary dropped a bombshell. Jessica had tried to sue for defamation, but her own lawyers dropped the case once they saw the evidence. Brad, rejected from 23 job interviews, was now an app delivery driver. Ironically, the very job he had mocked. Samantha had retreated to the countryside, deleting her social media and writing unanswered apology letters. The most ironic part, Nina said, was that 3 days before the Coke incident, I had finished an algorithm that detects corporate discrimination using AI. They gave me the final data I needed. Her Equihire app had since been adopted by 200 companies worldwide, generating $180 million in its first quarter, all reinvested into the scholarship fund. Microsoft, Google, and Apple had partnered to implement the system. Tom Williams, the IT colleague who had stood by her that day, now led Sterling's diversity division. Watching Nina turn humiliation into revolution, he told the New York Times, taught me that silence in the face of injustice is complicity. The evening's most emotional moment came when Marcus Thompson, Nina's father, took the stage. A retired bus driver who had worked 40 years to put her through school, he held the Nobel Peace Prize she had just received, the first ever awarded for innovation in social justice tech. They only saw her color, he said through tears. Now the world sees her brilliance. The Apex Marketing Office, once a monument to corporate arrogance, had filed for bankruptcy. The building now housed the Nina Thompson Institute for Technological Equity, where young black engineers developed AI to fight systemic racism. Jessica made one final public plea on an obscure podcast. I lost everything over a silly joke. The video went viral, but not for sympathy. It became a masterclass in how privilege blinds people. Comments were brutal. You didn't lose. Everything over a joke. You reaped what you sowed. Nina ended her speech with words that went viral. They asked if it was revenge. I say it was justice. Revenge destroys, justice builds. I turned every drop of that Coke into fuel to change. An entire system. Because real revolution isn't taking down those who hurt us. It's building ladders so others never have to suffer the same. As she stepped off stage, her phone buzzed. A message from a 16-year-old girl in the Bronx. Miss Sterling, I just got accepted into the scholarship program. I'm the first in my family to go to college. Thank you for not giving up that day. Nina smiled, remembering her words from that fateful presentation. You've just made the best decision of your lives. And they had, just not in the way anyone expected. A year later, the Nina effect became a case study in academia. A term used to describe how institutional racism, when exposed, can catalyze systemic change. Jessica, Brad, and Samantha became cautionary tales in business schools worldwide. Meanwhile, Nina continued her mission to turn every injustice into an opportunity for change. The lesson was clear. In that Manhattan office, 3 people chose hate and lost everything. 1 woman chose justice and changed the world.